everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 13 mini and compare it against the iPhone SE 3rd generation and see which particular device is the better one for you. Now, the thing I will definitely tell you is that when it comes down to both of these particular devices, I'm a big fan of both the iPhone 13 mini and the iPhone SE 3. But I will tell you, when it comes down to both these, actually, there's one that is significantly better, which is the iPhone 13 mini. But the iPhone SE 3 still has some features going on for them for the most part as well. So we'll take a look at both these throughout this whole entire video. But if you do want to go through and pick up either one of these particular devices, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular phones. The iPhone 13 mini, which came out back in 2021, on the front side of this particular phone is going to be giving you a 5.4-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. And the thing I can definitely tell you about this type of phone and about this type of display is that this is a pretty good looking phone still, right? It's about 4 years old now, but it is like a really good looking device. You're getting a good size display. It's not super big, but it gets the job done. You are getting a notch on this, front of it, which isn't the best looking thing in the world, but it still is like a pretty good looking device. And I would imagine that if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, the display itself is actually pretty decent for its size. You're still going to be able to maintain the notch, which might not be the best, but there's no home button. It's all gesture design. It looks pretty good. And I would imagine that if you're going to go through and pick up a phone like this, you're probably still going to be feeling like it still is like a good looking and a good feeling phone for the most part. And when you look at something like an iPhone 16, the design of those phones fits similarly to this type of device, if that makes sense. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now with something like the iPhone SE 3, this is a little bit of a different type of situation. With these types of devices, you're going to have to remember that this type of phone is going to be a little bit different. The iPhone SE 3 is basically going to be giving you essentially this like smaller sized 4.7-inch Retina IPS panel. So this thing is going to be a little bit different, right? So you can imagine that this is not going to be as perfect as you probably want it to be. It's going to be a slightly different type of experience there, which I think is going to be okay, but it's just going to be outdated. You're going to be getting pretty big bezels on this type of device. You're going to be getting just an overall bigger amount of, it's just going to look like an older phone. Home button on the front too. Like that definitely is not that good of an experience here. And I would imagine that if you're going to be getting a phone, you probably want to get a device that's going to be giving you an overall better type of experience. And within a device like this, that's not really, what's going on here for the most part. So at least on the front side, that kind of covers it up there. They're both built around the same way though. Like neither one of these feel cheap. They're using the same material. So you're both getting lightning ports at the bottom. You're both getting glass backs, wireless charging on both. The 13 mini does have MagSafe, where the iPhone SE 3 does not. You're getting your cameras on the back, and overall there's not really a lot else to kind of like hate on here between these types of phones. I think they both, again, look good, but definitely the iPhone SE 3 it just doesn't look as good as something like the iPhone, as the iPhone 13 mini in this particular situation. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now, another really important thing to keep in mind here too is that when you're kind of going through and using these types of devices, one really important thing to remember here is the cameras are also going to be a really big part of how you're going to be looking at these types of phones. Right? Because the last thing you want to do is pick up a device and have it already kind of outdated in the camera department. The iPhone SE 3 is basically only giving you its single camera setup, right? So there's not really anything super crazy going on here that we haven't already seen. It already is going to be somewhat of an outdated type of experience from that camera department, which is kind of sad, but that's kind of what you'd expect in this particular scenario. So from that side, that is kind of one of those big things to keep in mind there. But also, when you look at something like an iPhone 13 mini, this one's going to be giving you a way better experience here. So that type of device has a higher likelihood of giving you just a better type of experience. It's a dual camera setup, 4K at 60 on the front and the back, where the iPhone SE 2 is only giving you 4K at 60 on the back and 1080p on the front. So that can be a little bit of a downside again. And depending on who you are, you're probably going to be wanting to get like a better type of experience And that is going to be somewhat of like the downside here, depending on which way you kind of take a look at it. So personally for me, I feel like in my personal scenario as well, that right there is going to be another one of those big things. It may not be the biggest deal in the world, but it will just be one of those other minor things to keep in mind there for the most part. So for my personal situation, if I'm going to go and buy a phone, I'm definitely going to go through and get a device that's going to be giving me a better experience. And something like the iPhone 13 mini is by far going to be the one that's going to be giving me the better experience from that standpoint. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now, another really big thing to keep in mind here too is that within both these phones, the iPhone 13 mini and the iPhone SE 3, we're going to have to remember that these types of devices are still going to be able to go through and give us a good type of experience when it kind of comes down to their software updates. So they're both still supported with software, and they're both probably going to be supported with software for a couple of years now. I would say probably like another 2 years, we're probably still going to be getting software updates. So I think that's always going to be a nice thing to have. I love being able to go through and pick up a phone and get that type of capability. So you're essentially going to be getting that type of capability inside of these types of phones, which is something that I actually like a lot. So again, neither one of these phones are perfect from that standpoint, but I would imagine that if you're going to go through and pick up a device, you are probably going to be getting a better experience of a device from something like an iPhone 13 mini, because it's going to feel like a more premium type of device rather than something like an iPhone SE 3 in this particular scenario. So from that side as well, I think that's another really, really important thing to keep in mind there as well. And finally, when it comes down to the performance, the funny thing is they both have basically the exact same internals inside of them. So you're essentially getting the same type of experience and the same type of feeling between both these types of devices. So it's not like one device is going to feel like way better than the other one here. They're both giving you like very, very similar types of experiences here for the most part. So I feel like that right there is kind of a nice thing to basically have. And if you're trying to get the more premium, more expensive feeling phone, you're essentially going to be getting that here inside of this type of device. So like I mentioned, if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, I feel like that right there is kind of a nice thing to basically have there inside of that type of phone. Again, maybe it's not perfect, but you're definitely going to be getting a good type of device from that standpoint in and of itself. So like I said before, kind of keep that in mind when it kind of comes down to it. So when we're looking at this type of device, right, and I'm kind of just taking a look at it, I don't really know if this is a device that I would look at and I would be, I don't know if either one of these phones would be the first phones I'd recommend kind of looking at for the most part, but I do think that the iPhone 13 mini is still like a very, very good device to pick up. I think it's a little bit older, so it's much cheaper, and I think because of its size, it can be a really good sized phone for a ton of people out there. And some people might prefer to go ahead and buy a phone like this and get a really good experience. And I think that right there is a really nice thing to basically have. Now, does that mean that's like the most perfect phone of all time? Probably not, right? But still, I think the iPhone 13 mini is giving you a much better type of experience than something like the iPhone SE 3. I think the iPhone SE 3 is giving you a little bit of an older, outdated type of experience when it comes down to it, whereas the iPhone 13 mini is giving you a way better experience from that standpoint. So it's kind of up to you and depending on how you kind of want to take a look at it. But if I'm going through and picking up a phone, that's kind of what I'd recommend kind of thinking about, is that these types of devices, they're still good and they're still great, but it does kind of look like to me that a phone like an iPhone 13 mini would definitely be the better one here. But if you're okay with getting a bigger size phone, I probably would recommend just going through and buying something like an iPhone 13 Pro or an iPhone 14 Pro. Those ones probably would be way better than these ones. So from that standpoint, that kind of covers it up there too. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.